Hey, what's your problem? You have business problems? We have business solutions.
Not guaranteed.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Life is a fight.
It is.
In business, every day is a fight.
Always.
So, hey, what's your problem?
Yes, every day is a fight, but you got to welcome it. That's what we do here on the podcast. The fight is, once you accept it, that every day is going to be some sort of a fight, it's okay. Thank you, Mr. John David Wells, for the opening and voiceover for that. Check him out at the Wells Report on Facebook, Mr. JD. The What's Your Problem podcast is a show where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals about the plights, the things that they go through, the always somethings, but mainly about them, talking about their history, some problems they solved along the way to help you guys out. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. 10,000 downloads per episode. That's what we're shooting for these days. This year, that's my big, hairy, audacious goal. So if you can help us out, go to whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Follow along, subscribe, download, shout it from the mountaintops. Anything is good. I am your host, Jim McCarthy with Jim McCarthy Voiceovers, and it's yourshow.co, where we produce these wonderful podcasts. And today, my goodness, I'm out of breath. I got a fun person. We kind of hit it off immediately on another podcast I co-host.
Some other podcast.
I'll mention it. It's Mr. Rich Redmond, the Rich Redmond Show. You were on about a year or so, maybe 2 years ago.
Might have been, during the pandemic.
During the pandemic, we met virtually.
Yeah.
I think I was in my camper.
That's right.
Doing the episode.
Your son was coming in.
Right.
That was great. Yeah.
And you were still in Vegas at the time, right?
I was.
Yeah. So, Mr. Larry Aberman, how are you, sir?
Sir, I'm great.
Yeah.
Well, it's just great to be, somewhere with somebody.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. It's always fun. So Larry is a professional drummer, musician for many, many years, a long time spent at Zumanity in Las Vegas for Cirque du Soleil. And we'll talk about all those things. But if you're an avid listener of this show, of course, we do something here called the Dad Joke Challenge.
Oh,
and always making that transition is tough. So the Dad Joke Challenge is brought to you by Trade Bank of Nashville. Mr. Edward Fox is he's a purveyor of dad jokes. And he's got apparently 3 books out on Amazon called Grown-tastic Dad Jokes. Trade Bank is his business, and if you're one of these people that has like service-based businesses, or maybe some items are sitting on the shelf if you sell products, Trade Bank is a good alternative. A nice little separate economy that engages in trade. Once you become a member of Trade Bank, you can engage and trade with other Trade Bank members and maybe kind of accommodate different costs that otherwise you'd be paying for cash. So let's say like a phone system provider or security cameras or something like that. You need that for your business? Trade with them. All those people are on the platform. Trade Bank of Nashville, all the description, all the information's in the description. Larry, are you ready to laugh or groan?
I'm ready. I think the music is perfect. I could just dance to this in front of my kids, and it'd be a dad joke.
It would be a dad joke in and of itself.
Yeah, that's how dads stop. So, it is.
Well, here we go. Joke number 1.
What's Irish and stays outside all year? Patio furniture.
Yeah. That one was pretty grown-tastic.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that Ed's coming on the podcast next week.
Oh, boy.
And
That'll be cool.
That'll be fun. All right, joke number 2.
If A is for apple and B is for banana, then what's C for? Plastic explosive.
Right.
That's right.
I'm so way ahead of him.
You got to love the Aussie accent, right?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Plastic explosive.
Joke number 3.
How do you tell the sex of an ant? Drop it in water. If it sinks, it's a girl ant. But if it floats... My son asked me, why is the toast in a cage?
I think what he was going for there, it's a boy ant.
That was a boy ant.
Yeah. I think he might have missed that on the actual recording. I'm going to say boy ant. That's pretty good.
Okay. I was going somewhere else with that, but I'll just leave it. Yeah.
Boy ant. Here we go. Number 5, hopefully.
My son asked me, why is the toast in a cage? I said, it was bred in captivity.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
That was, I believe, 4 jokes, so number 5.
Mountains are not only funny, they're hilarious.
Oh, my gosh.
That's
That's
the
pretty
winner.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I think
my name is Larry too. So hilarious. So let's take it in there. We keep upping the ante.
We do really keep. I've never thought about that. But there you go. The Dad Joke Challenge brought to you by Trade Bank of Nashville, powered by Trade Bank of Nashville and Mr. Edward Fox. There we go, man. On to you and you only, sir, Mr. Larry Aberman. It's always been a pleasure. I think I sat next to you when we were at Rich's clinic.
Yeah.
And man, what a night that was, because I was really proud of him. He was also blown away that so many, of course, he had a huge crowd that came out to see him. People really ate up what he did. And sometimes you don't see the fruits of what your labor has been for the past 20 some odd years, especially in his situation, when you see it manifested in front of you and how many people you've touched, how many lives you've moved. He was like emotional that night. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. And I met Rich when he looked me up. He was at the premiere of my show Zumanity, and that was 2003.
Oh,
and
really?
He looked me up just to say, hey, Rich is that go-getter kind of guy. And we've been contacting each other and friends since then. So I kind of went through that Nashville journey with him. Early on, watching, seeing his career grow. And I know for him, when he got to do that thing at Forks Drum Shop, it was a really big deal.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. As you said, there were people scattered in that crowd that were touchstone people through his career.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually had some moments like that this year.
Nice.
Going back to my alma mater for college and for high school, being invited back to do some really exciting concerts, and teaching and stuff. And
where did you come from?
Well, originally I was born in Center City, Philadelphia, so that's why hilarious. That's how they talk back there.
You do have a very northeastern tone to
my thing kind of goes all over the place. I'll tell you why. I started in Philly, and for high school, my mother got remarried, so we moved to New York City. So I had to lose the Philadelphia accent really fast.
New York.
Yeah, I got real New York. Whatever, man.
Yeah. What are you looking at?
Yeah, because I got to high school, and high school kids are rough. They heard, hey, how you doing? They're like, where are you from, man? I'm like, okay.
How you doing? Don't ask me that. I'm going to kick your butt now.
It's true. It's a tough town, man. So right before my 30s, I moved to Los Angeles.
Right.
And then at 38, 39, I moved to Vegas.
Right.
To do Humanities. And then I was there until a year ago. We moved here to Nashville.
For the longevity of Zumanity, you were there, because is it still out there?
Nope, they closed the show during the pandemic.
Right.
I left the show 6 months before the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I did it for 16 years.
That's a long time.
It was a really long time.
Well, take me back to college, high school, and everything.
Oh, right, going back to high school. I went to the High School of Music and Art in New York, which is the famed school.
Right.
It was an incredible experience, and I went back in the fall to play a concert honoring the guy who was the head of music there. His name was Gabriel Kosakoff, and they put together a percussion ensemble, which is a classical thing, to perform in honor of him. And I was just one of the alums that they brought back, and it was pretty heavy.
Nice.
Yeah, that was great.
And then college was in New York as well?
College was in New York State at Eastman School. Eastman School of Music is in Rochester.
Yeah, I know Rochester. For sure, yeah.
No, Eastman is pretty amazing. Pretty high powered. I went there as a classical major.
Okay.
Played in the jazz department and all that. But
a lot of spang-a-lang, right?
Did a lot of Spangalang and a lot of boom ba-dum, timpani and stuff.
Right.
I went back there. That was like March, to teach and perform with the jazz ensemble. And so again, like what we were talking about with Rich, just getting this chance to go back and it's just kind of an arch for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew that when he was playing it, or he was doing the Forks thing. Yeah, it was.
For those of you who aren't in Nashville, Forks is a local drum store, Forks Drum Closet, legendarily known as. Yeah. I'm not sure if legendarily is a word, but I'll go with it.
Sounds good.
Sure. And for anybody in Nashville to do a clinic is where you show up and a musician's going to show off how to do the things that they do, and you can glean from them in person. It's like a class. For anybody in Nashville to do it and pull it off successfully.
Oh, yeah.
says a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Todd Zuckerman, who plays with Styx, he's a monster player. He just did one here recently, but a few years ago, he came and did it over at Soundcheck and packed the house.
Yeah.
And there had to be 300 people there.
Yeah.
So you better have your stuff. Like what I'm trying to say is that if you're doing a clinic in Nashville, you better be of note.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so Rich has certainly gotten to that level. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so impressive and why we're talking about it.
Yeah. And again, it's the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was just the culmination of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
exciting for all of us being friends with him.
Yeah. But I mean, even you've got a storied career as well. You went out to LA, I would imagine, to kind of get into that music scene. What style were you looking to do? The rock or pop?
Yeah. I mean, when I got back from Eastman, all my closest friends were started to get on tours
Right.
and recording. And at that time, this is mid, like 86, 87.
Right.
That part of the industry was very active, especially recording and touring. So that's immediately what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I really took a very heavy leaning towards playing in the pop field and did very well. And like 93, 94, I found myself either in LA doing most of my work or dialing the LA area code all the time.
Right.
So I got a place on Melrose area. It was a little small place. And so I was kind of bi-coastal.
Right, right.
And then I just gave up the New York place because I was just more weighted in LA, but the style was mostly pop at that point.
Right.
You know, and I got to play on some pretty neat records and work with some pretty exciting and talented, well-known producers, and you know, it was pretty incredible at that point.
And then, you know, how did the Zumanity thing come about?
It's just total what's next.
Yeah.
You know, I was touring with an artist and recording through 99 through 2002, and things had slowed down with him, and just kind of sit there and go, okay, what's next?
Right.
And
do you go out and look for these things, or kind of work your inner circle?
Well, that's the whole point. You always have to work it. And I always found, and I tell anybody that wonders about that process, as long as I'm putting it out there, stuff will come back.
Right.
So I'm putting it out there. I'm looking or blah blah. This Cirque call came completely out of the blue.
Wow.
And it was a surprise.
How did they know about you?
It's, one of my oldest friends was rehearsing with a group all week at a place called SIR, which is a rehearsal place.
Yeah.
And Cirque was auditioning musicians that whole week.
Right.
And he was the kind of guy that makes friends with everybody. And so by the end of the week, they kind of took him aside and said, you know what, we don't have any drummers that we're liking.
Right.
And we have 2 shows opening next year in Vegas.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody that you like? And he said, well, what kind of drummer are you looking for? He said, well, and they listed all the things, which is pretty much a guy that can do everything.
Right.
And my buddy said, well, the only guy I know is my friend Larry. And I don't know what he's doing or if he's available, but you can call him. They called me, and I was just sitting in my studio wondering what's next.
Yeah. Well, I guess this is next.
Can you come and audition for Cirque du Soleil? I said, sure. When?
Well, I'm really rusty on my acrobatics. So
Yeah. But they said, when? I said, when? They said, now.
It's been a while since I've done a front flip, let alone a back flip.
You got to be careful too, man. There's a lot of injuries in that.
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
went down and auditioned, and they told me right away that they'd get me on something, and they did.
Well, your tools and skill set you had to bring to the table for something like that, what are they? Obviously, it's skill and being able to play the drums first and foremost. Sure. But I would imagine you got to be able to read, you got to be able to chart. I mean, a lot of the stuff I would imagine that after a couple of gigs becomes memory.
Yeah,
right? Muscle memory and everything.
That was the thing for me. I mean, we played it so much. Anything new, I might have some little charts, or they might have a lead sheet. But after about 4 shows, I don't need. The whole book was in my head.
And if you ever go to a Cirque show in Vegas, you're going to see a lot of things. I mean, the music is so is it ethereal or ethereal? Is that how do you say that
ethereal,
word?
But ethereal.
Ethereal. That's
every
like
show is
Walken
different.
Would say it.
Yeah,
ethereal. Ethereal.
That's a horrible Christopher Walken. I should have done better at that. But no, it was funny when I got that call. That's the first thing I thought was, wow. First of all, I was like, wow, this is a left turn for me.
Yeah.
But I thought the music would just be that kind of thing.
Right.
I showed up, and Zumanity was a very dance-oriented show. So
Yes.
A lot of acrobatics, but a lot of dancing.
Right.
And so that meant a lot of groove and a lot of dependence on a heavy drum chair.
Right.
So, and in actuality, the touring and gigging I was doing the 4 years before that was primarily with a well-known jazz artist. His name was Joe Sample, and a singer named Layla Hathaway was part of that as well. And it was amazing, but it was, kind of funky jazz trio, acoustic piano, acoustic bass, and I got this little drum set, and I kind of awakened my jazz thing. It kind of happened. It was weird. I ended up on that. So I thought, okay, maybe my pop heavy hitting days are over, and I show up and thinking I'm going to get because they didn't send me any music. I just showed up to Montreal where they put the shows together.
Right.
And it was like this low end and all that. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this 10 days a week.
Start doing some leg presses,
10 shows
right?
a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was great.
Hour and a half, hour and
A 90-minute show twice a night.
Twice a night.
Yeah,
and they packed that house every night, right?
Yeah, they had a great run.
Right.
They did great. It was a very experimental show for them. So
it was, because it was the first burlesque Cirque du Soleil show that they put out there. Courtney and I went to one of the first shows they started doing. Somehow we wound up with tickets through the radio station. So I heard you play it.
Oh, isn't that
right?
great?
Probably in 03 or 04, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of boobs.
A lot of boobies.
A lot of skin. Yeah.
It was
butts.
Fun. Yeah. They after a while, it just became part of the talent.
I would imagine, yeah. But I mean, how often they cycle through the performers in those shows? Because they've got a shelf life of what, just a few years doing that kind of work?
It depends what kind of. There's so many factors to that. I mean, first of all, it's a lot of the acts are acrobatics, so you have injury.
Yeah.
So then you have backup acts, and then injury keeps people out for 8 months, and they come back. But the shelf life, I mean, some people did the show 10. 15 years.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Because you also have the comedic aspect of it, where you have the Franco Dragone influence, where just random people would run out on stage, look up in a certain direction, and run off stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Zumanity had some pretty crazy, racy things that they do, bringing people up on from the audience, and most people thought they were plants, because in many of the Cirque shows there were plants. Because they'd bring somebody up and all of a sudden they're doing some acrobatics. Like, it's a plant. No one in our show was plants, and it was crazy what they'd have people doing.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Because Blue Man Group does that as well.
Sure, it's kind of, I think, almost like a Vegas staple at this point.
You got to involve the audience. It's interactive. And I only know that what Blue Man did was legit because my sister-in-law got picked.
Right.
During a show.
That's it.
And she got to go up there and feed them Captain Crunch.
Right.
Yeah. And she was like very motherly about it too.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It was very funny.
I just remember some really disgusting banana thing. I just flashback.
They had the tubes and they got sick from the whatever they were eating at the time.
Oh man.
Did all you guys hang out? The performers from different shows? Did you know each other? And
yes. But not as much as I thought.
Right.
I think when I realized that doing this show is so all-encompassing, and just when you finish the show, you wake up, you're wasted.
Yeah.
And then you got to restore, find all that energy to do it again.
Right.
So the hang is, everyone kind of gets into that zone. So the hang is hindered by that. But I did know 3 or 4 of the Blue Man guys, and I'm still in contact. That's one thing about social media that's kind of cool is, I'm still feeling in touch and in contact with a lot of people in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I actually...
Well, yeah, your 16 years of your life was there.
Yeah.
A big part of your life.
I was there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long time, man. 4 was enough for
20.
me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You lived there.
I did. 01 to 05.
Yeah. It was a fascinating time for me from 2003 to, I left in last year. So
2022. Yeah, 19 years.
Yeah.
Where did you live out there? In Summerlin?
Summerlin.
Yeah,
but I was going
that's
to
the
say,
place.
just Vegas changed so much in those 19
Buddy,
years.
yeah. I mean, I went out there in 2021 for the first time since we left.
Oh, wow.
To spend some considerable time out
That's
there.
crazy.
We went for a car wash trade show, one of the biggest ones they have out there at the convention center.
Sure.
And I was amazed at how the strip had changed, because the last time I really saw it was in 2005.
Oh.
And I always, let's say the Ocean's 11 version of the strip, when that movie came out in 01, 02, that was how we enjoyed and loved Vegas.
Right.
Like the hotels were far enough off the strip. The strip itself at that point, you could practically eat off of it, off the sidewalk. Granted, you had all the those guys,
the ticket guys,
the flyers that on the ground that they would have to clean up. They've since put that away, but I mean, the construction and dynamics of the strip, I feel like everything is on top of you now.
Oh yeah,
right. All the signs and the lights and all this other stuff.
Oh yeah.
I was like, this is now. I don't like it.
No, it was getting to like how moving to Nashville. How it's been. I mean, it's such a welcome relief, really, because the energy in Vegas is pretty electric, and also I'm just it's much softer here, just because it's more nature and green, and it's the South, and I don't know, it's Vegas is a very quick, what do you got for me kind of town,
right?
Right. I always told people, growing up in New York or Philly. I grew up in Manhattan too.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that must have been tough. I say, man, Vegas is a much tougher town than New York.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I was out
I always felt that. Yeah.
But you were working on the strip. You were, always had to go there every day. My wife, she had to go there every day when she was a massage therapist. She got her training and licensing out in Vegas and became a massage therapist at the Hilton.
Oh, okay.
Then she went to the Luxor, which was interesting the way they did things. You would literally, the morning of, had to call in and find out when your shift was going to be.
Yeah, you didn't know.
You couldn't plan for the day at all.
Yeah, we had that with rehearsing.
Really?
Especially the first few years. Yeah. I remember someone was complaining at a company meeting, like, I'd like to have a life. They say, look, we have you from 1 o'clock on.
Right.
It was like everyone
1 o'clock on, so you'd have rehearsals after 1, and then you had the shows to play later on.
Yeah.
So it was a 10-hour day.
Or more.
Or 11
to work.
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
And was it paid by the hour, or it was salary every year?
It was by the show.
Okay.
So when I did my contract, my brother's a lawyer. He actually told me a lot of things about the contract. They were this, they were that. He said the most important thing in this contract is your per show has to be enough to make it worth your while.
Right.
So that's how I negotiated with that in mind.
Did it have built-in raises over time and stuff like that?
Yeah. And honestly, when Cirque started, it wasn't as corporately structured as it is now.
Really?
When we started the show, I mean, and they were giving us 7% raises those first. I shouldn't even be talking about that.
Well, but still, I mean, that's considerable.
It was amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Then they kind of went, "Wait, we can't do that."
Whoa.
These guys are going to be here for a while.
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, anybody who does looks at the ticket sales alone, can do the math on that.
Yeah, but you know how bean counters get. And they start bringing those guys in, and gals.
But I mean, for creatives, whenever I coach them, I'm like, well, part of the negotiation aspect is doing your reconnaissance and knowing. I know you're at least raking this much in per night,
right?
Based on ticket sales alone. Let's forget about merch,
right?
And you kind of put the cost basis against the expenses and stuff like that. How to operate the show,
sure.
But that I would imagine that's why was O always the premier show on the strip, and along with Mystere, because those were the first two that got there.
O is the show that basically created the security and made Cirque a real player and hugely successful.
Well, Mystere was the first one.
Mystere was the first one that was very successful, but when O opened, it was a premium show, and it still is. And it sells out every night.
It does. We actually, the last time we were there, we went to go see it. We took the team that did the car wash show here literally a month ago. And my first time seeing it, when my wife and I lived there, it was always like, hey, someday we'll go see it. But working in radio, there was just no way. I mean, the joke around the locals in town was, why do they call it O? Because when you go buy tickets, your reaction is, oh.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it was...
I had that experience.
At the time, I would say it was $350, $400 a ticket.
I think, with all the fees, it can get crazy like that. Yeah.
We didn't pay that much this time around, so obviously things have ramped down.
It's gone down.
There's competition that levels that stuff out.
Yeah.
But still, they're making a heck of a nut per night, man.
Yeah.
God damn.
That show is insanely successful.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of repeat,
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons Zumanity had a lot of success, was there was a lot of repeat people coming back.
Yeah.
It was part of their trip to Vegas.
Then you had Love that came about. That was a Cirque du Soleil show with the Beatles music. One of the things, I have a funny story. You remember Clint Holmes? He was,
sure, I know Clint.
Yeah, the act at Harrah's for a while.
That's right.
Before my wife and I got married, she was going to fly back to Connecticut to get ready for the wedding, because we literally, planned to be married in September of 2021 or 2001.
Yeah.
And then we moved to Vegas that June. We had no idea that was going to happen. Just kind of came out of nowhere. But we'll spend 2 months in Vegas. You'll fly back, get prepared for the wedding. I'll fly back. We'll get married, do our honeymoon in Disney, fly back to Connecticut, and drive your car out to Vegas. So that kind of threw a little bit of a lifestyle wrench into things. But on the weekend that she was to leave to go back, and I was going to bachelorette for a month, we got some tickets through the radio station to go have a weekend. I think we saw the burlesque show, whatever. I can't remember what it was at Harrah's, but it was in one of the showrooms.
God, I don't know.
It was 2001. So, I mean,
that was before my
we
time.
did that on Saturday night, and Clint Holmes on Friday night. Now, we had always seen the posters around town. He had that typical lounge singer kind of.
Yeah.
The pearly white teeth,
right.
and every picture was like, all I need is the coat to sling over my shoulder.
Right.
And it was almost like a parody of sorts that we kind of had the perception of with Clint Holmes. So we go see him, and it's front row seats, and we're sitting next to these people, these women, and eavesdropping, listening to them talk. And the woman was seeing him for the 9th time.
Oh, sure.
And I'm going, and Courtney and I are like, wow.
Yeah.
You guys are kind of losers. Yeah. 9 times seeing this guy.
The Tom Jones phenomenon too.
Buddy,
yeah.
He came out and rocked our world.
Yeah. Well, I saw that same production. My friend Ronnie Foster was playing organ.
Bill Hain on.
Bill Hain was and Bill Fane.
Fane, that's right.
And
he just passed.
Yeah.
Rest his soul.
Yeah, and they were amazing, and that was the same. I had the same experience, and then over the years, I got to perform with him, play with him, hang with him, and.
He's a cool dude.
He's a New York guy, and he was just like,
he's still working. He's out there.
He's doing great.
Yeah, we saw him, and I think over the course of the being there, we probably saw Blue Man 3 or 4 times.
Oh, really?
Cirque, Mystere, we saw 2 or 3 times with people that came into town.
Yeah.
But Clint Holmes, we probably saw him 13 times.
Yeah, see, loser. My friend Herman Matthews, his drummer, he was playing with Tom Jones around that time.
Right.
And I would see him, I saw it 3 or 4 times, and I remember guys in front of me, this guy and his wife, and she had the panties ready, and he was like an Elvis impersonator. They went every night or something. And he's like, okay, throw them now. It was just the weirdest. She's throwing up these panties like it was all planned,
Right.
Anyway.
What's new, pussycats?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw the Shintas a few times at the Rio, and they went back to Buffalo, I think, after a while.
Yeah, I didn't know much. I didn't see them.
Right. Penn and Teller is still there.
Yeah.
God, they're a staple.
Yeah. I remember seeing Penn at a Starbucks, and our show had kind of started when his started.
Right.
And I just went up to him and said, hey, it's so cool that you guys are here. Like Vegas was really taking off in a new way.
Yeah.
He just looked at me and went, very Penn,
Really?
And so I learned, I'd see him at that Starbucks all the time. I learned, just leave Penn alone. He had a laptop
and you are?
It said something like, F somebody or something,
right.
Just leave me alone.
Right. Yeah. He had the wall up.
Oh, absolutely.
We did a remote one time in the Hard Rock, and Vince Neil walked by, and actually we had our morning show doing their broadcast, and Vince Neil just came up and sat down uninvited.
Oh,
hey,
cool.
Vince.
That's cool.
Hey,
guys, how you doing?
Yeah. That was crazy. I mean, we had so many people come through that radio station. It was nuts. But I mean, the local guys, you never really give. I mean, Earl Turner was down in Laughlin,
dude.
Right?
Yeah, I have friends.
He was like their Laughlin's version of Clint Holmes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I never got that, but I
like lounge singer kind of thing. Yeah.
No, he's great.
He's a great
singer.
entertainer.
Yeah, that was the thing. And in Vegas, just very refined in the entertainment field. There's a lot of really, really incredible entertainers. And that's what Vegas is for. I mean, one thing that we'd learned putting together Zumanity is like, it has to be entertaining.
Yeah.
If it's not entertaining, people don't want to come.
Right.
That's why a lot of the Broadway shows that they've tried to open there, if there's too much of a message or, and many of them, they seem, it's just a nice musical. There's always kind of a message.
Yeah.
People don't want to.
I'm here on vacation. I'm leaving reality outside.
I'm in Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear a message.
Right.
That's why Cirque is so successful. The message sometimes is there. It's a little hidden. Nobody really knows. But you're watching great acrobatics and great music.
Yeah, it's a very impressive show. All the shows that they have out there, even the ones that came through here. We took the kids to see Cirque at the Bridgestone one here, but you're seeing the road show. It's not as. I mean, it's even different. The Blue Man groups that came through at TPAC. Where were we saw one that was a. No, we did see the one at TPAC, and it was similar to the one in Vegas. And that was like how we remembered it. And we took the kids, and the kids loved it. Sure. We just saw them again. They came through, and it was a different show. And it was one of those things where it was like, okay, that was cool. It was, I could see why the tickets were maybe priced that way. Yeah. So I was like, whatever, it was still fun. Right. And I brought my business partner, and he saw them for the first time. But I'm curious as, that was one of the challenges I had, booking something for the team this time around was like, well, I know I can take them to Mystere and get a good show. I'm not sure if Blue Man adopted this new version of the show and they're doing at the Luxor, that show, which was okay. Right. It wasn't the show that I remember.
Right. Yeah, it changed a lot. Yeah. It changed a lot.
But did they do that with Zumanity, develop and evolve the show over time?
Well, Zumanity was actually one of the Cirque shows that evolved all the time.
Really?
Because they were still trying to figure out how to present the content that they were, that burlesque thing.
Right.
And again, how do you make it something that people will want to see and come back? Because so the exploration created a show that was constantly in flux. So when you say I did it for 16 years, I did many different shows for 16 years, which was my salvation.
Right.
I couldn't have possibly have done it if I was playing the same show every night. There's no way.
How long can that last? I mean, as a professional guy,
I'm a pretty
for you.
I can appreciate the steady paycheck, so I'd hang in there. But the best analogy I can give you is I had a good friend that was playing a show that was a Broadway show that I don't even want to name. I have to name the name. It was dancing. It was Mamma Mia.
Right.
Which and basically his comment, he left after 5 years. They did a 5-year run. He said, "Thank God that show closed, because if I had to play Dancing Queen one more time, I was going to kill somebody." So there's your answer.
Right.
I think you could probably hang in there.
That would be like when I was in a cover band and we had to play Enter Sandman. It's totally like that.
Yeah.
That was my bane of existence song. Or that or It Smells Like Teen Spirit.
I get it, right? Bragon.
It's just all I'm doing is bashing at this point, There's no finesse, there's a style to it, but it's Neanderthal.
It's so funny because Dave Grohl, I'm so fascinated by him because I saw Nirvana. I saw a concert. It was Pearl Jam, Nirvana, and the Chili Peppers.
Right.
And it was when Nirvana just started with Nevermind. And
91.
They were unbelievable.
Wow.
And mostly what freaked me out was Dave Grohl and his soulfulness. Mm-hmm. And so when I play those tunes, if I'm doing I just think of Dave Grohl and how badass it sounds, and I just that makes it even worse for me.
Right.
Because just without all the right impact and the right feel behind it, it's like you said, it's this caveman.
Right.
But he manages to put so much music behind what he does.
Right.
That guy's pretty amazing.
And a lot of you're right about that, because finding those nuances and embodying your inner Dave Grohl to play that song is a challenge.
Yeah.
Because I was a basher, but not to that extent. That wasn't my thing. I liked, bashing in a funky way.
That's it. Well, and that's funny because there's this great little interview. It shows up on the line where Pharrell is interviewing him and asking him. They were just talking, I guess, really, but he just said, Pharrell, my whole thing comes kind of out of the soul thing.
Right.
If you listen to You Dropped the Bomb on Me, you dropped the bomb on me. He said that's really what I was copying.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, that's to play that song even in the beginning where it kicks into the beat, it's like crash,
right?
And every one had that crash.
It's a mindset. I had a funny experience. There's a guy that wrote a song that was in the original Transformers movie.
Oh wow!
And he did a remake about 5 years ago, and he called me up to play drums on it. And we did it remotely, which a lot of stuff I do is over the internet now. And,
right.
And he sent me the demo, and he just told me, I don't want any intellect on this. I just want you to play as much of caveman-like as possible. If I hear any finesse, and it was just like,
not even like accented eighth notes on the hi-hat.
No, nothing.
Right,
and that's what he needed.
Wow,
Transformers drumming.
Just if you see the Michael Bay movies, it's nothing but lens flares and monsters.
Saw it last night. We went to
Did you go see the new one?
Oh yeah,
we saw the Spider-Verse.
I heard it's awesome.
It's good. It's there's a lot of Easter eggs in it, and I'm a Marvel guy.
I've heard that. Yeah,
tons of Easter eggs.
Yep.
Because when you get into these multiversal situations, gosh, you can just creativity at its finest.
Good.
So I'm going to go ahead and fire this off. I'm going to ask.
What's your problem?
What are the issues you're having these days, if any?
Wow. Well. Can we get into? All right, I'll get real specific.
Sure.
How do I get paid?
Well, you do the service, and then you get QuickBooks or FreshBooks and send them an invoice.
Invoicing and one of the things I loved about my Cirque gig was every 2 weeks that paycheck was direct deposited in my account and always proper.
So you're experiencing the entrepreneurial...
Which I remember from the old days.
Right.
I used to not laugh, but I always told the story, if you do a record for Atlantic Records, it's going to take 5-6 months to get paid.
Right.
So I've got a couple of those now.
Okay, so you're basically putting out... you're buying your lotto tickets, so to speak, right?
How so? What do you mean?
Like, you're placing your bet for an investment.
Well, I'm just I'm just doing gigs and they're not paying yet.
Oh, okay.
Checks in the mail.
So they owe you the money, you just haven't gotten it yet.
Haven't gotten it.
So they should be paying you. Are there terms on your invoices and stuff? Or
it's kind of a lot of the things in the music business are gentlemen or handshake,
right?
Or not so much contract oriented,
right?
Even when you do recordings, it might go through the union, that kind of thing. But it's just when the employer decides to pay you.
Right.
So, but to take it a step further, you say, what's my problem in all this? Well, I have to, if I'm allowing myself to get completely flustered to the point where I'm stuck, if I'm doing all the
prospecting,
just say I have I need to get paid for a job,
right?
And I'm doing everything I can, due diligence, to get paid.
Yeah,
calling every week, being polite, not creating any drama, doing everything I can do to get paid.
Right.
The end result is like you have to take it to the courts, I guess, right? Something like that. Right. But just making sure my side of the street is clean.
Right.
If I'm doing everything I can and I'm still bent out of shape about it, the problem is me. The problem is me.
Yeah.
The reason is I have to continue to hammer this thing.
Right.
But I can't let it take over and get me pissed off. And you know what I'm saying? Because that affects the other guys that pay on time. It just creates an attitude in me that's unattractive. Mm-hmm. I become unhireable because I'm kind of a pain in the butt because I'm walking around with this angst.
Right.
So I'm kind of taking a little problem and making it a
It's
Mondo problem.
Well, what's the percentage of your clientele that's not paying?
Oh, whatever. 20%, 10%.
20%? Okay.
Pay some jobs they pay me. You get paid right away.
Right. Right.
Some jobs it's understood. If you do a session through a payroll or whatever, it's understood. It's gonna take a few weeks.
Are you talking to the right people, or?
That's the thing. You talk to the people you think are the right people.
Right.
One gig I have that's not being paid, and it's a pretty substantial amount of money. Yeah, I just keep kind of hammering. I found that the person I was dealing with probably wasn't the right person.
Right.
But how would I know that until you end up with
sales issue? This is a sales issue.
So the other issue is, again, being polite.
Right.
Because this one particular gig, there's another one down the line coming.
Right.
That's equal pay.
But at the same time, if the writing's on the wall, and when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Okay.
Right.
If they come back to you, you're not being if you're coming to collect what's owed to you.
Yeah.
And they see you as a pain in the butt, that's on them. It's like, good, you agreed to pay me, and I'm signaling to you that I'm not willing to weather this storm, or if you're not going to pay me for a number of months, then we got to talk about interest rate, because I'm loaning you money now.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
The politeness part is just not hammering them every day, 24/7.
Right. I had a guy who owed me several $100s, and you get to the point, at least in my mind, that I would hit them with the invoice. I'm like, oh yeah, and I was in a situation where I was gratefully able to kind of let it slide for a while.
Right.
Eventually you kind of look, no, you still owe me the money. I did the work for you. You might be using it.
Right.
We got to get to a certain point, and a lot of my phone calls, emails, and everything went unanswered. Finally, I just said, look, you got to pay me, or I'm sending you to the collections.
Well, that's it.
Right.
That's it.
and you can do that for a certain amount of money. They'll take a piece of it, but the amount of money that you signal, or what you're signaling to people, is that I can do this to him because he's not going to really make that much noise.
Right.
And I can get away with it.
Right.
So what do you want to signal to that person?
Bam.
Right?
Exactly.
Right.
And so it's all subtle.
Yeah.
It especially with employers that talk to other employers, you don't want to be taken advantage of. So you have to be firm. At the same time, there's ways of doing it without being
you got to be
self-centered,
PR sensitive.
and
yeah. But I mean, if employers are talking to other employers, well, why is he paying in bucks? I didn't pay him. Well, then pay him.
Yeah,
that's a good reason to be a pain in the butt.
It's an interesting thing. We were talking about clinics before. Before we started this podcast, and I remember doing a clinic, and I made a request for something, and it was a friend of mine hiring me. He was a head of a department at college, and he hired me, and I just needed some equipment or whatever I said, and he just went, "Oh no, you're not one of those guys, are you?"
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's that reputation thing where it's completely ridiculous.
Right. Well, I mean, and those, if I were in that situation, okay, well, define those guys. What do you mean?
Oh, it's just.
I'm not you.
Oh, sure. You're
if you're talking with the guy.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? One of those guys?
It's already understood. I already know who those guys are.
Somebody who has, conducts business a certain way with terms involved, net 30, that when I give you what you are hiring me to do, I expect to get paid if I did a good job. One of those guys?
No.
Because you're talking about a typical businessman at this point.
Yeah, of course. No, just, demands. I need this, I need that. And he was just basically putting out there kind of like this warning shot.
Right.
Like, don't overstep like those guys.
Okay, Mr. Customer, let me turn that coin over. Are you one of those guys?
Exactly.
That where I send you an invoice and I got to chase you down for 6 months? Is that how it's going to be?
No, absolutely not.
Because if that's how it's going to be, then I have to make accommodations for that.
Exactly.
So, I'm not trying to be a pain. I will bring my A game. I will be easy to work with. But, if you're not going to pay me on time, I mean, what do you expect me to do?
Right. So some accounts, in some situations, they call again. It's like, nah, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if this thing doesn't start resolving,
Right.
Yeah, that next one, there'll be some reservation.
Right.
I've always learned that, and I learned that kind of the hard way, but with employers, sometimes it's like the great gig.
Yeah.
And they use that against you.
It's posturing.
And there's like, well, there's a lot of guys that want to do this gig.
Sure.
And I've learned watching other guys that are in gals, they're just like, yeah, but you want me. So,
well, that's, and again, this is like a sales negotiation tactic. When I sold cars, cars are much different than, putting yourself out there as a creative, doing what you do.
Yeah.
But we would get that similar scenario. Okay. What makes your car different than the one over at Global? Right. Okay, fair question, because the one over at Global is $2,000 less.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I always, when you get an objection, always agree. You're absolutely right. It is $2,000 less. But if I had to put two cars next to each other, which one would you rather buy? And that was a tactful, a tactical trial close question. Well, I'd like this one. Great. Why is that? Mm-hmm. Well, because it's certified. Great. Why else? Well, because it's got, I know it was serviced here. Terrific. Why else? So I would exhaust their, I would turn the logic around on them. Okay, if they were right next to each other, which one would you go with?
Right.
Okay, that's why this one's $2,000 more. Completely understand. I understand that you've got some other people that would love to do it, but if I'm lined up with all these other people, who are you going with?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with you. Great. Why is that?
Yeah. Why is that?
And make him close himself.
Right.
Okay. And that's a sales tactic.
Right.
That's why it's like, I don't think I'm asking for anything unreasonable. I'm asking to be paid on time.
Oh yeah. No.
And it's like, and it's really unfair to you guys. And I'm speaking as if I were you talking to somebody, Mr. Customer, it is really unfair to you that I have to do it this way, because other people in the past that I've dealt with, I'm still waiting to get paid on projects that are 6 to 12 months old. I don't want a relationship like that with you. Do you?
Right.
Does that make sense? And then, you kind of walk them through. That's why I have to have net 30 terms.
Right.
That's why, if we can agree on that. Otherwise, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You don't work for free, do you?
No.
Okay. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I'm asking to be paid on time. I'm not asking you to take the brown M&Ms out. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So
that's it. I'm not that guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of those people, you're talking about somebody who's being a diva. My background dictates the fact I am not a diva.
No.
That's why I be paid.
And you know that. And so, yeah. But again, not letting that thing absorb me.
Right.
Because there are situations, and there aren't that many. But when you say, "What's your problem?" Again, I used it as a springboard, really, to get to the point where the point I'm trying to make really is, if I'm having a lot of problems, I have to consider, where am I in this problem?
Right.
What is my part?
Sure.
That's the most important thing for me.
And that's being on the inside of your own bottle. Right.
That's it,
seeing the picture inside the frame, all those different things. It's tough to, okay, is it me? Let me look in the mirror. Let me see if what I'm coming after them for, how can I do this in a tactical, logical, non-emotional way? You are bubbling under the surface. Yeah, I'm mad, but I can't come off that way, because if I present it in a logical fashion, not like, hey, do this or else. You guys can see we're pushing 90 days here on this thing.
Right.
What's the one thing holding you back from just going ahead and paying this?
Right. Yeah.
And unpeel the onion. Well, we decided, okay, who do I need to talk to? Because you would understand. It makes sense that it's not really fair at this point. Right. I need to get paid.
But you're still now acting in a sensical way.
Right. Logical. Present it to them in a logical way. It's tough when you're the one doing it. Mm-hmm. That's why agents make so much money,
right?
Because they do all this stuff for you.
Mm-hmm. Managers, yeah. Well, so the money thing is always a hotbed issue, but any relationship, anything that I'm having a problem, what's your problem? I can have a problem with anything,
right?
I can have a problem with you saying, "Hey, man, what's your problem?" It's like, well, you want to know my problem?
Really?
It's you. That's my problem.
That's not the problem.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, so, and when I'm in that mode, then it's over. Yeah. It's all sunk. So, essentially, once I hear the word problem, I think, am I doing something in this situation that's creating?
You're looking in the mirror first.
Always.
Right. Which is fine.
Because if I don't do that,
Which is, again, a logical way you have to do that. Looking in the mirror, okay, did I say anything that came off the wrong way? Could anything in the email text-wise could have a different tone that I intended?
Or am I being dishonest?
Right.
Am I being envious, full of ego? Am I being, in any situation?
Right.
And if the answer is no, then, sometimes it's like there's always, if I'm having a rub, now I'm not saying they're not doing anything. Right. What I'm saying is what I can work with immediately is, so if there's a rub, maybe it's just my expectations. Yeah, but they're supposed to. No, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Right. Okay, so you're projecting expectations on other people.
Expectations. So all that stuff helps create more of a problem.
Right.
Keeps me from getting to a solution.
So with that kind of logic in mind, when you go and buy something, you know that there are expectations that are unspoken, right? Mm-hmm. If you go to the grocery store, you're going to pick up your items, you're going to bring it to the checkout, you're going to have to pay for them. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with, and that's where a lot of businesses, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of new solopreneurs, guys in your situation, that are, because you're kind of new there. You're coming out of a gig where you had a steady paycheck for 16 years. Right. Now you got to go hunt.
Right.
And now you got to do all the back office stuff.
It's very familiar.
Right.
I've done it. I did it a lot before, Yeah.
But I mean, those, what I've found is, like, even with podcasting, one of the things I make sure I bring up in any initial meeting with a podcast client or prospect, look, guys, I'm going to be very transparent with you right now. This is not a guaranteed success. Okay. This is going to take a good 2, 3, 4 year commitment.
Right.
And if what we're talking about here, what the pricing is, what I'm going to do for you, you have to be able to commit for that.
That's right.
Because you're going to have to put it out consistently. If you're not going to put money into boosting the episodes or anything like that, if we're going totally organic, you got to consider the noise out there. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll do my best to coach and find out the niche and really refine it and make the clips that we need. But you got to be in this for the long haul.
Oh, yeah.
And I emphasize that, because if they have, a year in, because a lot of my packages are based on long-term, okay, I'll accommodate all these other services as long as we can do a 2-year deal.
Right.
If you get to 12 months, I'm not, remember when we talked about this?
That's right. Well, that's it.
This is why, because I'm going to now take everything that I put in here. If you're ready to give up, I have to charge you for that.
That's it. But going in what it's going to take.
Right.
Well, it's just, again, going back to that contract I signed with Cirque du Soleil. And when I had a problem, I said, I was okay with the money, and I knew that they were going to pretty much do everything that they're doing, because I wasn't new.
Right.
I read the contract. I knew it was coming.
Right.
And a lot came.
Yeah.
A lot of it came to fruition. Mm-hmm. So again, no surprises.
Right.
It's like, if I'm having a problem, that's on me.
Yeah.
Because they're doing everything. So again, like what you just did. It's like, here's the contract. This is I'm not going to do this unless we do it this way.
Right. And you get that all the way before you put the ink down on paper.
Oh, yeah. No, I've had that. I remember flying from Osaka once from one gig, and they wanted to fly me to Portland for another gig. And they had a layover of like 14 hours in Tokyo. Mm-hmm. And then I would land, and whatever it was, the scenario was, it would be no time to do anything but just go right to the stage for the other gig. And the manager said, I'm sending you your ticket. I said, well, if you put me on that flight and have me in that airport for 14 hours, and then I land and I have to go to stage in Portland to play with your artist, I know you want to hire Larry Aberman.
Yeah.
But the guy that shows up on the other end won't be Larry Aberman.
Right.
I'll be a blithering idiot. After the whole tour I just did with this other artist, I'll be fried.
Right.
So we have to get something better than that. I can't do that. I won't be able to represent us. If you want Larry, I won't be able to show up.
Right.
So don't hire me.
Do you speak in the third person at least?
At that particular moment, I did, because I was a commodity.
Yeah.
I don't. Larry doesn't speak in the third person very often.
Right. But I'll say that, you mentioned commodity, and that it's funny, even in the voiceover world, you have a lot of, people that have been doing it a long time. I call them the elitists, and they kind of piss on the people that are new to it, because the barrier to entry has certainly come down. And you can make a living, or at least a good side hustle, using Upwork, using Fiverr, all those discount sites where you kind of, your tip of the spear is price based, very aggressive pricing, and a lot of these legacy elitist type of artists out there just all day long rip the newbies apart. You're driving it to the bottom, your bottom feeders, blah,
Sure.
blah, blah. Guys, it's a creative medium, okay? And it's based on passion. When you have those two in play, and I know this because I was in radio, they capitalized a lot on our passion in radio to pay us peanuts. Hey, we'll give you, tickets. We'll give you,
that's been trips.
Right. Yeah, okay, at the end of the day, it doesn't pay my mortgage. So that was the big challenge with me, is actually even having a side hustle that helped us pay for things. And I'm glad I looked into that because I knew I wasn't going to get it out of radio. Now, when I went to the mat and did research, when it came time for me to get a raise, I got better than 3% every time, but it took work. Here's what I've done for you. Here's what we're doing. Here's the return. Like literally drilling down into those numbers and making my case to where all of a sudden they would come back with a 6 or 7% raise. Right. Here's why I deserve X dollars.
Right. Well, that's the factual part.
Right.
When you can bring facts.
Logic. Right.
Right. It's funny. I'm going to do the third person thing, and it's the only other example I ever use. But it was 1996, and I moved to LA. And 95, 94. And in LA, it was a lot of those, you can do this gig, a lot of exposure. You're going to meet a lot of people. And I didn't need exposure. I didn't need to meet a lot of the gigs that you're going to expose me to. I've worked with those people, that kind of thing. And my New Year's resolution in 1996 was, if you see Larry Aberman playing drums, he's getting paid.
Right.
No more freebies.
Right.
And you put that out there, no one's going to ask you to do anything for free. It's a similar thing with this gig that I'm not, getting paid for right now.
Right.
Another checks in the mail scenario, whatever. At a certain point, you don't pay. I'll start talking, first of all.
Yeah.
I'll let people know who's not paying.
Right.
But also, you forget about the next one you want me to do.
Yeah, because you've got to settle up the bill from the best.
Forget it.
Yeah.
And those are, like I said this earlier, those are the hard things I had to learn.
Yeah.
I marveled at drummers that would stiff arm major artists because they were not delivering, what they knew they deserved.
Right.
And it didn't care. They didn't care that, who they were,
Right.
Because a lot of the major artists, major gigs, maybe, it's like, well, but you get a chance to play with so-and-so. It's just like, and I watched guys go, I was young and I was just trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
I was amazed by that.
Yeah. I think if they come with a posture like that, I completely understand. Absolutely. I would love to play with, whoever.
Yeah.
But, after about 3 months, I think we're going to have the discussion. Is that something we can do?
That's great. That's great too.
Because eventually that's going to run out, and I'm going to have that as a feather in my cap. But at some point, I'm going to need to pay my bills. So working for peanuts, do you really want, a star of this magnitude? Do you want that getting out that he pays his guys peanuts? I don't think you do.
Right.
Not that it's a veiled threat, but I guess it would be a veiled threat.
It's kind of veiled, but it's also understood. Their reputation does mean something too.
I mean, a lot of people, given what we know, would be very surprised to find out how sidemen are paid.
Oh yeah. It varies so much.
Yeah.
Sometimes it pays so much more money than the other guy.
Yeah. And
but
different.
You do the other guy because it's, the other guy is like got more of a name.
There's so much of so many people out there that are so afraid of upsetting the apple cart or, I want to say Kenny Aronoff probably found out how much he was valued when he became a free agent. Okay. He escaped from the Mellon camp and really found out, oh, wow. Now that I'm a free agent, people are coming out of the woodwork. I'm in demand. Right. Now I can actually look at pricing.
Right.
So,
well, pricing also, I mean, I did a gig that was pretty cool right after Cirque. And they asked me, okay, so what do you want a week, whatever.
Right.
I said, well, this is what I made in the last one. And it was a pretty good sum. And
right.
They went for it just because that's what I made. And honestly, it wasn't worth I wasn't going to do that gig for anything less.
Yeah.
Because it would take my time away from other things and et cetera, et cetera.
When you have the realization and the truth of the matter in any given situation, we are living in a sell or be sold world.
Oh, yeah.
We are. At any given time, we're being sold something or we're trying to sell something.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
It really does come down to that. We're trying to, every single day in some manner, we're being sold something, or we're trying to get our way. If we flip that and we understand that, okay, I want to always be in selling mode. How do I get what I want? So in that situation, I could just analyzing it. Okay, they came at you and they tried you on. Well, what would it take for us to get you? You know, this is what I got at the law. Okay, well, we were thinking here. That's a bargain. You know what I mean?
I already knew it wasn't for the gig.
Right.
But that's what it was going to take for me to do that gig.
Right.
But based on my own worth.
Right.
You know, which is what,
and if you're happy and you get value out of it, fine.
And that's where Aronoff is at. You know, he can, you know, well, this is how much it'll cost because this is what it costs for me to do it. And yeah, you can really become very successful.
I had a conversation yesterday. A friend of mine reached out. He's got some video work he wants to get done. And I would always, you know, my methodology is to never reveal price until I have to. You know, so I asked him, well, how much did that cost? Well, let me ask you this. What was your budget? Everybody's got a dollar amount in mind.
Yeah.
And, you know, typically, well, I just don't know. Okay. You know, and then I go to bracketing mode. You know, for as little as this and as much as this. I've done them for as low as this, and here's the reason why, because there's not much overhead or headache. If we're just shooting for 30 minutes and I have very little editing to do, then dude, I can totally get you down here all day. But if I'm having to do a lot of work and put a lot of time in, you can understand that I would have to probably be more towards the middle. So probably not as little as this, but not as much as this.
Right.
Okay. And you establish that bracket. Now we're somewhere going to land in here.
Right.
And I said, you know, and the other, a very factual posture that I use is that, okay, well, let me educate a little bit on you. Typically every completed minute of video in Nashville is kind of getting somewhere between $1,000 to $1,500. Right. Does that make sense? And I always ask that question in that way.
Right.
Because I want an affirmative answer out of him. I want to say, and he says, yeah, that makes sense. Because
now we're on
and you got to be careful the way you ask that question, because you can do it in a way. Does that make sense? How do you feel when I ask it that way? Like talked down to, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I actually do it like a drum fill. All drum fills go down in tone. Does that make sense? And it's like, yeah, because it does make sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I sound like I just did you a favor. So a lot of that comes into the sales approach of how I do things is, okay, let me educate you on how things work. Is that something that will work for you?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that.
That downward.
So true, man.
Right, because it's an end to a sentence.
Yeah.
Because is that something that will work for you? Because I'm not even sure the way I just sounded.
No, it's kind of whiny too.
Right.
You know?
Is that the sound that will work for you?
You can't come in with that. I have to be strong.
Right.
You know, for me, it comes with age. You know, I've been doing it so long. And I know what I want to do, and I know what I'm not willing to do. Mm-hmm. You know? I think...
and you're not old.
I'm old.
You're not old.
Okay, I'm not that old. But I think the other part that comes into play is, especially as an artist and a freelancer, is dignity.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of guys don't, and gals, people in my industry, their ego gets involved so quickly.
Right.
Because I don't like the way they're treating me.
Right.
And, you know, I don't have to get so wrapped up into that.
Right.
I think my point is the dignity part is anyone insulting me?
Right.
Is anyone putting me down? Is anyone telling me that I don't know what I'm doing? Is anyone saying you should be doing it for this or this? If they're just negotiating or if they're having a bad day, it has nothing to do with me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it keeps my ego out of the situation, which is really important.
Right.
Because a lot of times people send out that stuff so they can have something to play with.
Right.
And then make it about you because you're a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in negotiations or just in personal relationships or whatever it is, you know, if it's clear for me that they're not asking me to do things that are not dignified or with, you know, they're going to compromise me, or if they're asking me to do things that are none of the things are hurtful or what, you know, I can just lay back and see what's happening, and all that stuff kind of goes away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah.
I found that to be really important, not just in money, but just being on a gig, you know?
Yeah.
And some artists, especially you're working for celebrities or people that they're going through so many things all day with their careers. and they start lashing out, as long as they're not insulting me or causing me any pain, and you just do what you got to do, man.
Right.
Right.
You look at them, you done?
Yeah. Well, you know what? You're done is almost like fuel. It's like, what do you mean what done? It's like, I give them nothing.
Right. Because there's an element of like, okay, you have a choice to make at in those types of situations. You got to sit there and absorb it and not make any noise and not rock the boat. And then assess whether or not they're surrounded by yes people. And do I want to be that guy that says no?
It's not even yesing.
Right.
Sometimes people blow off steam, people do their thing.
Right.
As long as it's not directed at me,
right.
As long as they're not making it about me. But if they start, you fucking, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I'll do that. It's like, look, man.
Yeah.
In
the car business,
you can't speak to me like that.
Right. You take them aside one-on-one, though. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, don't embarrass anybody.
Right.
I did one instance. It was on behalf of the whole ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody was coming down really hard, and it started getting insulting, and I just stopped him in front of everybody because I didn't care at that point. If this continues, I'm out of here.
You're at that mode of I got nothing to lose.
It was nothing to lose, meaning except my dignity.
Right.
Because the paycheck, it was great, but I didn't care at that point. I'm not going to sit and listen to this.
I'm not going to be berated. Yeah.
It's not worth it. You could pay me millions of dollars. Millions of dollars, maybe I'll let you.
Right.
But, reasonable amount of money, a good amount of money, doesn't buy you the access to treat me like a piece of garbage.
There's a whole notion of, when you have people like that, a boss like that, and I've worked for him before, where they're somewhat wonky. I mean, I had a situation where I worked, when I got out of radio, I had a little bit of a tangent into the collision business. And it was finally a situation that I thought I always wanted. I could just market for one company, because in radio, you're marketing for a slew of companies in my job, including the radio stations. So I was able to just concentrate my efforts and my talents on one company for a season. And he was, within the first week I was there, he must have fired 9 people. So my wife, with our newfound money and higher paycheck, and she's like, well, I'm looking at it. I said, let's hold on to the money.
Right.
I don't know how long this is going to last.
That's it.
It lasted 2.5 months. Mm-hmm. He called me into his office after I was, and again, this was a lesson in setting expectations and understanding when you get to that point in life in a situation where I'm just going to tell you what I think now, because I know you're just going to do what you do anyway. So I'm just going to tell you. And he called me in after 2.5 months. It's just not working out. It's not you. It's me. Okay, Bobby. You're right. It is you. I'm not going to disagree with you there.
Right.
But what do we have to do here?
Right.
We got this other thing that going on. We were talking about integrating into what I do for you. That's costing you X amount of dollars per month, which is far more than what you're paying me.
Right.
It's something I could easily adopt into my daily skill set. And I was literally at the time, unbeknownst to me, getting into closing mode.
Right.
And I remember asking, but what's the one thing holding you back from doing this? Why? How do we? I said, I enjoy working for you. Why do you want to? Well, it's just not moving the needle. I said, okay, I understand that. I said, maybe I should have explained to you when we interviewed that it would take a lot more than 2.5 months to move the flipping needle.
Right.
You've got 7 locations.
Right.
Did you do that in 2.5 months, Bobby?
Yeah.
Well, no. How long did it take you? It took me 15 years. Okay, so you understand that these things take time. Is that something we can agree on?
Yeah.
And I was like, all of a sudden, where is this person coming from?
Yeah.
I was asking these questions, like, is this something we can agree on? Does that make sense?
Is this something that we can agree on?
Right. But, and after, he still went ahead and did his thing, which is fine. I ended up going to the car business after that.
Right.
Which taught me oh my God, what an education that was. But he just, I just got back to the point where, look, this is something that you really have to think hard and heavy about. Okay, You're telling me that social media is not going to help the collision business? Really? Explain that to me.
Yeah, you have to explain that one.
2013, we're on the precipice. Instagram just came out.
Yeah.
You don't think this is going to permeate?
Right. Yeah.
You think that radio is still going to be the solution to brand your business? I think it'll be a part of the solution, but dude.
Yeah.
You're looking at cost savings and a lot more deeper penetration if we do it the right way.
Of course.
And you're willing to give up on all that.
And
I guess I am. Okay. I can't tell you otherwise. So I guess it was good. Let's keep lines of communication open.
Right.
I vehemently disagree with you, but good luck.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the money. I don't. I don't know what I'm doing.
That's really cool that you spend that amount of time. If it reaches that point for me, I'm done.
Well, for me at the time, it was like, okay, I need to have an income. I've got a family to feed. But I was like, take a shot.
Got it.
And every time I did that in the car business where I would push back and challenge people, it typically turned out positive. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's the one thing holding me back from doing this right now?
Right.
Well, it's really the price. Okay, what about the price? It always comes down to three things: product, price, or is it me? Is it the person? It always does.
Yeah, well, of course.
Right.
Generally the price.
Right. So even in your case where you're reaching out and you get the right person to talk to, hey, you've been waiting a while on this thing. Right. Let me ask you, was it not what you expected, what I delivered? Is that why you're kind of hesitating?
It's already in this. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's a negotiation thing, but it's already understood. They brought me there. I did it for, because, it was a very successful event.
Right.
There's a lot of things in that particular thing. There's a lot of snafus, a lot of things that didn't happen, didn't fire right. And
we're just working with an unethical.
No, the ethics really is not the problem.
No.
Not in that situation.
Right.
And the other, but, again, it's just, what's your problem? Where's my money?
Yeah. Where's my money?
And that's a new experience.
Right. Right.
It's really familiar. I remember those days, and I'm back in it. Freelancing is a mother.
It can be, especially where you got a lot of competition and there is a lot of commoditizing going on.
Yeah. There's so much going on in my field. In terms of programming and computers, and so I'm up on all that. And then I play so many different styles of music, so I'm able to cover lots of things. But even just the types of situations now, because of programming, they're not hiring as many musicians.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
You got to wonder if AI is going to get involved with that, and I'm sure it will.
Of course it is. Of course, it kind of has been, and it's kind of abandoned a box is one thing I remember I've seen. It's been around for a long time. You can put in parameters, it'll put out a whole performance.
Yeah. The human touch to an art form, though, is throughout time and history, I think, is shown to be.
I think the human touch in anything.
Yeah.
And as long as we're here, I think that's still viable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it is kind of shocking to see how things have evolved to almost a sterile point.
Right.
I was just talking to somebody about Apple's last presentation a few days ago of their latest gear.
The goggles.
The goggles.
We were just talking about that this morning.
Yeah. It wasn't so much the goggle. The whole goggles issue is another thing, the product itself, but just the presentation.
Yeah.
It was so clean. Every presenter, it was all recorded. So it wasn't anything live. They all looked like avatars. Their pants, their clothes were brand new. There were no wrinkles. Their skin, everything was enhanced. It looked like they were all filtered or something.
Oh, wow.
It looked like they were trying to up the ante of humanity towards the digital thing.
Right.
It was a very interesting experience for me where the humanity was like stripped away more and more. And this is the aesthetic that hey, this is the way, this is cool. I was like,
and it's funny, I'm going to dare to say that they're actually hitting culture at a point where they shouldn't do that. Unless they're early, because I'm a big believer in a pendulum theory where every 40 years we go from what we call a we to a me type of cultural mindset.
Sure.
And right now we're in the pinnacle of a zenith of we, which is the darkest part of the pendulum swing. So if anybody wonders why everything feels so tense these past few years, it'll pass, but we've got another year or two to kind of get through it. We're living through 1943 all over again.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And with Apple doing that kind of an approach, that's something you would do in 1983.
Yeah, it seemed very strange.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it was very, it didn't fit.
Right.
At all.
People crave, like, the thing about a we cycle is authenticity. That's why guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, I think, are outpacing a lot of these more. I have a belief that if you come up and you're too sharp dressed, you're sending a bad signal.
Yeah.
You know,
too slick.
That's why these influencers, these thought leaders that are out there, you know, you got Ed Milet showing up in muscle shirts because that's his thing, in jeans and stuff like that. You got Gary showing up with hoodies on,
right?
And then you got some of these other guys that are still showing up in 3-piece suits. That sends a message,
right.
Okay? You're really overcompensating for something.
Yeah.
This other guy over here has the confidence to show up in flip-flops and a hoodie.
Yeah, he believes in his message.
He believes in his message.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of other people believe in it too.
Yeah.
And it's been shown it's interesting. It's really interesting. So
yeah, I'm enjoying Nashville. There's a lot more authenticity than say Vegas. You know, I'm definitely feeling that. You know, there's less glitz, less show, less entertainment.
Well, I mean, Broadway these days is interesting. So
yeah,
downtown.
I just did a gig down there. My first. I've done some of those some pretty cool showcase gigs on Music Row, but I did a show at Skydeck on Lower Broadway,
right?
And the parking alone is unbelievable. It's so expensive just to play the gig.
I can't imagine that would be a nightmare for me.
And it took me half an hour to get out of the parking structure.
Oh my God!
At 11:30.
Yeah,
and a lot of musicians in this town are like, it doesn't pay. It's not worth it to play down there.
The amount of money it takes. The amount of money when you really factor your time in, how much you're making per hour.
Well, that whole thing, you take a lot. It's just wow, 30.
Now those guys who play in the band in the window at the honky tonks.
Yeah,
I've heard that's actually become quite a lucrative thing to do these days.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a tough gig, boy.
Really?
I from what I've heard, you're there 4 or 5 hours. You know,
it's a long time to play.
You work hard for the money.
Yeah, 3-4 nights a week.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those guys are making over 6 figures from what I hear.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's amazing to me because even when I played in a cover band when I was in my 20s, we did Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, you know, around different bars, and you have to drive. Sometimes it would be a 45-minute drive. Right. Sometimes we'd be playing in town or whatever. But that was really, I would make an average 150, 250 a night, somewhere in that range.
Right.
You know, and that was when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. That was fine.
Yeah.
That was great extra money.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's great. I mean, you know, sadly, a lot of the gigs are still paying that.
Really?
And that's a whole situation.
But creatives, man, they're notorious for not knowing how to negotiate, sell, you know?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
It's demand, too.
True.
You know, I have my money gigs, and, you know, certain recording gigs pay what they should, and certain recording gigs are more creative, and you do them because you love art, you love creating something, and it's just it has to work itself out in the wash. It's an interesting struggle, but again, you know, you put yourself in the position of what kind of gigs you're going to do. I put myself. I know what gigs I'm just not. I'm not capable of sitting on Lower Broadway for 5 hours and doing that for any price. You know, I'll do something else, you know?
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with the gig. It's just, that's not what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
I got it. Well, with that being said, this is a fantastic conversation. We've been talking for a while.
It's great being here.
Yeah, buddy. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
Want to go get some dinner or lunch one of these days?
Absolutely.
How can people find and follow you and hire you?
LarryAberman.com is pretty simple.
Pretty simple. You'd love it.
I'm on Facebook, Aberdrum.
Right.
Larry Aberdrum, and then Larry Aberman on that's Instagram, and then Facebook's Larry Aberman.
All those things are connectable or connected from the website, right?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I'm easy to find.
There you go.
Yeah. There's no mystery.
Well, all the information is in the description. Please look him up. He's a tremendous guy to find, follow, and if you're lucky enough to have a conversation with him, grab a coffee with him, by all means, look him up. LarryAberman.com.
Yeah.
There we go. And then What's Your Problem podcast.com. Please look us up. Again, 10,000 average downloads per episode is what we're going for this year. I'm going to put it out there. Everything, all those pertinent details, pick your poison is how you want to listen and follow at whatsyourproblempodcast.com. Mr. Larry, always a pleasure, my friend.
Really
I'm glad
wonderful.
we did this.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's just such a kick to be with you. You know, we spent a lot of time doing those little squares.
I know.
I'm done. I'm so done with that.
That's crazy. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, buddy.